Hello and welcome to this week's Whiskey Burn. My name's Jay and this is my Whiskey Den. So this week we have kind of come to the end of our Irish journey, but I wanted to explain to you what's so exciting about Irish whiskey and why has it suddenly become quite big. Well, one of the main reasons is Jameson's whiskey. You may have heard of that Irish famous brand. They have been really pushing their whiskey to become the best-selling whiskey probably in the world. So that has a massive impact on the whole market. When one really pushes, it pushes them all. However, pot stills, you're thinking, hang on, Scotch and all the other whiskies use stills. So what's the difference? Why is it only Irish whiskey can call themselves pot still whiskey with an E? Hence the title of today's episode. So the difference is it dates back to about 1700s when the Irish started making their whiskey. Now what happened was basically, again, like most things, it's to do with that money. And what happened was back in the 1700s in their country, they decided to put tax on malt. Okay, so malted barley, wheat, whatever, it was taxed. So the Irish decided to mix it up a bit. So what they decided to do was put unmalted in with malted. And then fast forward to today, you're going to have pot still whiskey, which has no more than 5% of other ingredients. Unmalted, this, that, barley, wheat, whatever. And then 30%, a minimum 30% of malt. There you go. Little history lesson for you. But that ultimately, in a nutshell, explains it. But yes, for example, a Scotch single malt whiskey will use malted barley, malted wheat, whatever, a single grain. Capiche? So they will use malted, say malted barley. Let's just go with that. Malted barley. They'll use the single grain malted barley. That's it. They'll use that, distill it, and create their whiskey. Pot stills can put up to 5% of unmalted different types in there, as well as 30% malt. So it's pretty much a blend, but they call it pot still whiskey. Are you confused yet? Scotland, they use a pot still, but they can't call it pot still. Like no one else outside of Scotland can call it a Scotch whiskey because it's not done in Scotland. All these kind of interesting rules. Now, excuse me, that is what creates the interesting pot still whiskey for Irish whiskey. So, for example, the winner of my 3 Irish whiskies I tried was the Slane Irish Whiskey, a blended cask, triple cask, sorry. So there you go. That was the winner. So, triple casks. What on earth does that mean? Well, you know what a cask is? It's where the whiskey sits for however long it sits for. Could be 18 years. In Scotland, it's a minimum of 3 years and a day before they can open it. Triple cask. All it's meaning is the liquid in here has spent time within 3 different casks. Now, on the back, it's like enhanced by our signature triple cask. So again, it's their way of saying we put this in 3 different casks. What it doesn't say is how long for. It's been virgin, seasoned, and sherry casks. Nothing about the flavour on that, but trust me, it was very nice. So, Irish whiskey. What is it that makes it so creamy? Is it the fact that sometimes they go through the distill station? I call it a station. The distill station twice, like this Tyrconnell single malt. Okay, so single malt. So yes, the Irish do make single malt, but this one is double distilled, which means it's gone through the process twice before it then gets put into its barrel. This one doesn't have much in it. It just has a very few limited tasting notes on the back of this. Very nice, very nice. So, and on the third one, let's see what this one talks about. It says the Harvest Irish Whiskey Single Malt Single Pot. So now we know a little bit about single pot, but it's triple distilled again. So this has got a bit of both. A bit of both. This one was single malt, double distilled. So it went through the distillation twice. This is a blend, but it's gone through 3 casks. This is a single malt, so they've just used one. Like the Scotch, single malt Scotch, they've used one, put it through their single pot still. Now, for me, that it's a bit of what's the word? A bit of play on words, because yes, you could put it through different pot stills, but the Irish, after every batch, they used to clean it out because you get different flavours. Because if you go, I'll have 30% of that malt, that's unmalted, I'll have a little bit of that and a little bit of that, but you've got more of this at the moment because it's cheaper. The taste after that for the next one will be different. So they tend to clear it out. So single pot, it's when you distill something, everyone uses a single pot. So it's a bit of a play on words, bit of a, like we were talking about the chilled filtered, the unchilled filtered. It's more to try and sell you the whiskey. So that's really the big difference there with the single malt, the single pot, triple distilled. So that's gone through it 3 times, through the process 3 times to get you the best tasting alcohol. Now you could stand there, sit there, wherever you are watching this and think, right, okay, distillery process. If you're into your whiskey, the distillery process is all about how you basically take your 3 ingredients in order to make your whiskey. But you can add little bits here, like the smoky smell. You can burn peat. That's going to give you a real deep smoke smell and probably quite a deep smoke taste. Think of the Lafroig. I haven't come across an Irish one yet that has got that same element of smoke to it, but through the distilling process, that's how a whiskey gets its characteristics, gets its smell, gets its flavour, gets its taste. So the Irish one is another way of how it cools. How do you cool it down? Do you cool it down spirals? They have got it down to a pretty good tea, and they are becoming increasingly popular. Pot still whiskey, again a bit of a play on words, but the fact that they used unmalted, I believe, is what gives them its creamy effect. Now, this was my favourite song out of the 3 over the last 3 weeks. If you've been watching, I've reviewed all 3 and talked about Irish whiskey. I think it's fantastic. So and this is really I find this quite interesting. I was talking to my friend about Irish whiskey and I said to him, the only way I managed to describe it was double cream and single cream with sort of thickness and have that creamy effect. And he absolutely said that's exactly what I was looking for, because I didn't realise that the double cream, single cream had that same similarities. And he said, you're absolutely spot on, which is nice when someone tells you that. So this is Slane Irish Whiskey, a triple cask. So it's been through 3 casks to get to where it is. Sláinte. So I'm not going to lie and say you've got to have Irish whiskey and it's the best ever, because I'm still on a massive journey. I've had 1 Japanese whiskey. I've had probably 5 or 6 Irish whiskies, a ridiculous amount of Scottish ones. I've had a slither of Aberfoils, which is the Welsh whiskey. I have had English. I went to Filey, Yorkshire. I've got a bottle over there somewhere that I've not opened yet. Yorkshire whiskey, English whiskey, but it's called Filey Bay. Really nice. But there are so many more. And not obviously, but I've had a lot of American bourbons. So Jack Daniels, for example, and a few others out there as well. So my journey, like there's Indian whiskey, which is enormous, absolutely enormous market out there. But Irish whiskey, if you've not tried Irish whiskey, give it a try. You will like it. Trust me, if you like Scotch, Irish whiskey is like a creamier, smoother version of Scotch. And I can see why it's becoming increasingly popular. So, a little bit of history there about pot still whiskey. Why is it that Irish can only call it pot still whiskey? Again, a bit of a play on words, but I think it's to do with the fact, to do with the fact that whiskey and what they put in it, malt or unmalt, and what now you're allowed to do a certain percent. Wow, that is such a lovely whiskey. This was my top Slain Irish whiskey. It's not overly expensive. You can buy it online on lots of different platforms. Get some of that. It's absolutely gorgeous. And those who don't like the ice, that's for you. I like it because it cools it down. It gives it different flavours, different smells. Off this one, I'm not going to go into too much of a tasting. You can watch last week's episode. Basically, it's sweet. Really got some really nice sweetness to it. Oh, smooth from top to bottom, shall we say. So, that's it for this week. Next week, big one. I say big one. Basically, next week, it's World Whiskey Day. So I'm going to have a few different ones out here. I'm going to talk through them, not just Scotch. And we're going to enjoy quite a few different whiskies. So, there we go. That's it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed me talking about pot still whiskey, Irish whiskey, and the journey that I'm on, and hopefully you're enjoying your journey as well. Irish whiskey. There you go. Hopefully you've learnt something today. And Irish whiskey came first. Just saying. So, next week, make sure you join me. Comment below. Let me know what you're going to do for World Whiskey Day next week. And subscribe and like. That's it for this week, though. Enjoy your whiskey. Slán.